love and the value that you placed on marriage and all of that, like that needed to be redefined. Marriage should never be the goal. And I think in our culture, in our society, like we still make like marriage and kids like the goal. And God showed me, and that is like, oh, it's never the goal. It's a benefit.
Welcome back, you guys, to another episode of the While I'm Waiting podcast. Johanna here.
Oh.
And today we are talking about when you keep taking L after L, loss after loss for those who, during your waiting season. It literally feels like, dang, everything that can be wrong is going wrong. I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere closer to where I thought I should be. What do you do?
What do you do?
What losses have you taken during your waiting season? Your current waiting season. What losses have you taken? And it's like, dang, God, you gonna give me a break or no?
Wait, what is my current waiting season? Like,
what are you waiting for currently?
I feel like
she knows. She knows. She don't want to tell y'all. She knows.
When you say, okay.
What are you waiting on currently?
I'm waiting on what? Seriously?
Yeah. Because I want to see what she's gonna tell y'all.
I am waiting on what many men and women across this country and great nation are waiting on. You know, a chance at happiness with the vehicle of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just one of the things that, you know, I aspire to have.
So you waiting on a man?
It's okay.
It is okay.
I'm out here.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you want to know what L's I've taken?
Yeah, while you've been waiting. Where it feels like a series of L's.
Ooh, child.
That reminds me of that meme. Ooh, Chile.
Listen. Okay, so what L's am I taking? What losses while I'm waiting for my man? Like, what losses am I taking? Pride. I've eaten a lot of that lately.
Ego taking blow after blow, huh?
My ego. And you know what? I don't even consider myself to be someone with a large ego. But I think that when you are faced with an experience where you realize that your ego has been called into question, you then begin to realize exactly how large your ego is. And so maybe I do, have a fairly large ego. And so I've taken some blows there. I've taken some hits. I've had to humble myself. I am working on patience. I am a person who in my world, everything happens now. What's not happening now, I can make happen now. On this journey, I don't have control. It's like I can only control, because as you know, you can only control yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking for a relationship, one that leads to marriage. You don't have control over the other person. Nope. It really is you. You control yourself, and that person controls themselves. And hopefully in the exercise of both of you controlling yourselves, it leads you to each other.
Yeah.
I'd just like to lead him to me quicker.
Oh.
It's but it's out of my control.
I think for me, the loss during my waiting season came from losing my grandma.
Okay.
It was actually like a person who, for me, was my anchor my emotional anchor in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Who, like, even if I was being strong for everyone else,
mm-hmm.
and even lying to myself about how strong I wanted to be, with her, there was no lying.
Mm-hmm.
And when she's gone, because she's gone, I know for a little bit, I was just like, it's like you're floating. Like, you don't even know what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, so how you expect me to navigate complicated things
mm-hmm.
without the person helping me navigate complicated things? So then that happened. And then choosing to walk away from career that I'm comfortable with, that I know, not that fed me
Mm-hmm.
my mind or my spirit, but more so it was paid very well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have a whole master's degree in cybersecurity and information insurance. So like this is an industry people are always asking me, how do I get in? How do I get in? And I'm saying, yeah, I don't feel good doing this.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, and then, I'm quick. I'll pick up and move. I'll change my environment. Like, so it's like change after change after change. Feeling like loss after loss after loss. After like friendships and things like that just changing. And I'm like, what is this all for?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when is this about to be different? Because right now, God, okay, got it. Like, I'm done here. Like, okay. Yeah, those losses, they humble you.
They do.
Even with like thinking, I remember like feeling like, okay, yep, this dude's gonna be my dude. When I tell you, talk about ego. First of all, have you ever had a dude make you think, question what you look like? Like, I'm like, am I ugly?
You're
Like,
beautiful.
I know I'm nice. I know I do all these. Like, what? It's like,
mm-hmm.
and so I'm like, all right, God, like, where we at with it? Like, do you want me to grovel at this point? Like, what is all of this for?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But then it brings me back to what I always keep saying about the waiting season. It's not about the thing that you want. It's about what these losses are meant to teach you,
mm-hmm.
about you,
mm-hmm.
about what you need to fix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because had I not realized, honestly, when my grandmother passed, and it was kind of like headed in that direction, so it wasn't anything sudden. Like I knew it was coming, and emotionally, I had detached from it long before she actually passed, which is another thing. But I realized, I said to myself, I was like, man, you better on that side rooting for me than on here, because baby, Earth is ghetto. Like, this is not it. And so if you up there translating my life to God for me, like, I'll take it. You know what I mean? And and in those moments when, yeah, nobody earthly can console me, I still feel like her presence is there. But it also, losing her showed me that there are people around me. Mm-hmm. I need to learn how to include people in my life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, no, you don't get to be that go-to, because how am I going to have a man if I go to you? Mm-hmm. Like, how's he going to show up and be that person for me if I don't even consider him an option because I have somebody else who does it? Mm-hmm. My grandmother was important to me because really she felt like the first human example of unconditional love. I knew that no matter what I would have done, what I could have said, or anything like that, I knew her love for me never stopped. And because of her, I know how to love, or I know that unconditional love can exist in that way. So, yeah, she was a blessing.
Thank you for sharing that. When you have like personal losses like that, to be able to assess the lesson in it, or in the lesson in it, is pivotal to development, to growth, to be able to know how to navigate your next experience. And I think that for me, I did, like, if we scale back a couple of years, mm-hmm. Because we've been having a long conversation about marriage, mm-hmm. The desire for it. And as a part of my journey, I had a situation where I met and fell in love with this guy. Mm-hmm. By every definition, like a lot of people around me, they was like, oh, like, this is not a man that you should be in love with because of this, and you shouldn't entertain it because of that, like that kind of thing. The heart wants what it wants, mm-hmm. and I was in love, and I loved him, and the challenge in that was that I met him in a time when he was really dark, broken. He had suffered a lot of close family losses like himself, and he was just trying to navigate like his space, but he was in a very dark space. And so if you can imagine, like the way I like to describe it, it's like a Tasmanian devil, because he was spiraling, and it was like trying to hug this Tasmanian devil, and like and he's like scratching you up, and you're just like, yeah, like I love you, like I'm holding, it's like I'm holding it, I'm holding him. And when he finally stops spiraling and actually falls into like my embrace, like he dies. And so for me, like that was a loss. Like this, like I loved this man, and as hard as it was through the um the earlier and middle parts of my brief experience with him, when he finally did the 180, like like reconciled his anger with God, from having experienced so much loss, having, gotten back into the church, praying again, talking about God again, talking about his future again. Like right when we got there, is when I lost him. Like literally dying while I was on the phone with him, and had no idea, and there was nothing I could do. And so huge loss for me for a number of reasons. One, I thought that he was it. The day before he died, I remember him dropping me. We had went on a hike, and I remember it was just such an amazing day. Like the hike was amazing. He took me around to visit like old stomping grounds of his, and he was pointing out like, oh, I used to do this when I was a kid. Like he just took me on a tour of Atlanta from his lens. It was the craziest thing. And then when he drops me off home, I remember walking up the stairs thinking like, oh my gosh, like, this is really gonna happen. This is great. I was so excited. Next day, he's gone. And so for me, it was, but there, I mean, yes, there was loss, there was pain, but man, like the lesson that I got from that, it was transformative, and it's definitely one that I'll be able to take with me, through the rest of my experiences, because losing him, like that whole experience, like I learned very genuinely, I learned so much about God's love for me as Lashana. Yeah, I do. I 1000% do. What to look for and what to stay away from, and that's not to take away anything from his life. It's just, um, I had the capacity to handle the negative aspects of him because I too was broken and wounded. And then from that experience, I've learned like, okay, I want someone who knows himself. I want someone who knows God and loves and trusts God. Like I want someone who knows how to embrace me and wants to do it publicly. Like I've learned a lot. I want someone who's not afraid to love. Like, and so yeah, I think that experience definitely has and will shape my experience with my future husband. I understood his love for him because, like, so, and and a lot of times when you hear about stuff like this, like you hear like people say, oh, like they're angry with God and all that, but I could never be angry because I knew that God loved him. And I genuinely believe because of the circumstances, it was what was necessary for him to not hurt himself anymore. But for me, it was like just everything surrounding that experience. It showed me like, wow, like God really is looking out for you. And not only that, but your definition of love and the value that you placed on marriage and all of that, like that needed to be redefined. Marriage should never be the goal. And I think in our culture, in our society, like we still make like marriage and kids like the goal. And God showed me, and that is like, oh, it's never the goal. It's a benefit, like the goal is to pursue the mission, the purpose that I set you here on the earth to do. You fulfill that. If you get married, to God be the glory. If you don't get married, to God be the glory. I had to learn that. And so like it took me from a place of just like, cause like it was a miserable space. Like, oh my God, like why am I not married? I've done so much and I'm so amazing. It took me from that place to like, okay, I would like to be married. Like I think marriage is cool. I think, like this and all of that. And now even like years later, like even having affection and liking other men and that kind of thing, the emphasis on the marriage is not what it used to be. But I'm glad we're having this conversation because it reminds me, like, oh, like, wait a minute, don't forget, it was never the goal in our world. Well, I'll leave it there. It was never the goal.
Well, damn. I mean, shoot. No. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Like, I think when we think about losses, especially of people,
Mm-hmm.
there is so much more to it than the physical body leaving.
Mm-hmm.
It is what that person meant, what the memory, the time. Because I, like, you know what stuck out with me while you were talking was, damn, if she knew that was her last day with him, would she have changed anything? What was the best part?
Mm-hmm.
What would she have said to, you know what I mean? Like, if you knew. And we don't know. We don't know. So which is also, and it also reminded me of in the book The Alchemist, where the whole point of it was for him to fulfill his dream. It was to get to those pyramids. It was to see that he just had a bunch of adventures along the way that taught him about love, that taught him about life, that taught him about all these things, right? But it's really about you fulfilling purpose. And if we learn to see loss as the lesson and not something that was taken
Like a
from us,
punishment. Yeah.
or punishment, even better, then we learn to appreciate life and live it so much more.
Live it. And that's something that I think that our culture has robbed us of, like just modern day culture. It's like we have created a concept of love that's not real, and we promote it and consume it and then put it back out there to be consumed again, and it's like, oh, like this isn't, and it's not, and the reason I say it's not real is because we're speaking to a faith-based community, and a lot of what's promoted about love is in opposition to the definition of love that's been given to us in the Word of God. And so, but I understand why that exists. It's because, again, like we are a society full of people trying to still heal, broken, wounded people responding to traumas, being triggered, and we're still trying to figure it out. And in the process of us trying to figure it out, we've created a thing and we've used our platforms to put it out into the world. But if it's not in alignment with the Word of God, it is broken. And that's why I said to you, and I think I said this to you, I may have said it to somebody else. I was just like, so when it comes to love, and I can't, I value my experience with my friend during that season. And there are so many people who would have said that I was crazy. But when it comes to love, a broken, wounded people can never instruct me on a godly construct unless it is in alignment with the Word of God. And that's why I was able to love so freely, and I have no regrets. And the lesson from it is so pure. And a big part of that lesson, aside from the love component, is understanding, like, hey, we need to live. We're holding on. We're so afraid to love and to experience just like these intimate parts of ourselves because we're afraid of being taken advantage of, and we're afraid of this, and we're afraid of that. And you're forgetting the fact that you could live to be 100 and you're still running out of time. My grandma died of an aneurysm at 83. My friend died of an aneurysm at 33. There's no rhyme or reason. We're living and creating these constructs and living off of these constructs off of assumptions like you don't know. I would much rather spend whatever time I have on the earth living in the gifts that God has given me. I have a gift, an ability to love and forgive. I want to experience that. That's a part of life. I would like to do it in a world that embraces it and allows it to be okay. But because it does not, I am choosing to do it anyway.
Wow. Well said. I guess the moral of the story here is loss serves a purpose. And honestly, it makes me think too that you can't lose anything because nothing ever belonged to you. It always belonged to God anyway. So, I know while you're going through it, it doesn't feel good, but just know that it serves a purpose. It is here to expand you. and learn the lessons in the L's that you take.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's the end of this episode of the While I'm Waiting podcast. We can't wait to see you on the next episode. Until then, bye.
Share, like, comment.